Bonjour, hello. My name is Nicolas Thébault, as you can hear. I'm French, and Nigel has asked me to give a testimony about where we lived as a family with Elaine and our 5 children in Conakry in Guinea between 2003 and 2018. Actually, we're still living it because we're still in contact with the church there. So, uh, I became a Christian in the US through sports in 1983, and we got married in 1987. And right from the beginning, we always felt God calling us to go to other culture and to work with the poor. So in 1996, in the middle of building a family, Elaine being pregnant and having baby all the time, God we started working for the church and being an elder in the church, leader of the church in Paris, and we joined New Frontiers at that time. And it was during the new wine and all the um, Holy Spirit falling on all of us and everything. And during one of the prayer meeting for France, there was two ladies who were there and from West Indies, and they share a real hurt and bitterness for what their ancestors had lived as slaves in the West Indies. And I am my family is from Nantes. Nantes is like the French Liverpool, where the city which benefited the most from slavery. And I remember very clearly sitting at the front, which I usually didn't like to do too much, and I really prayed to God, "Oh Lord, if you want to use me to give back something good to what all my ancestors have done bad to that part of the world, please do it." And one of the two ladies came forward to me and she pointed her fingers and she said, "God has heard your prayer and answered it." And I clearly remember saying, "Oh, God forbid." Anyway, I carried on, and we were very busy with the church as the most of the New Frontier Church got really touched by the message of Simon Petit about remembering the poor, trying to help the poor in Paris. And at the same time, in 1998, just after the first star, the first World Cup, France won in against Brazil. The following week, I was in Guinea to help with a refugee because I could speak French and English, and because clearly I heard God telling me to go. And Simon Petit and Nigel confirmed that it was right for me to go. And when I went there, I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I was so much out of my depth. But anyway, I went there, and what I saw was incredibly suffering, incredibly terrible. People coming out of refugee camps, incredible misery. I never saw anything like that. I got really touched. And anyway, I came back, got involved more in the church in Paris, and starting helping Nigel to send vehicles or different things in Conakry to help the church there, until 2003, during one of the other trip I had I went to Guinea. Actually, what happened is that we went to Sierra Leone, and with a guy from the church, Simon asked us to go there because he couldn't go that time, and I realized I suddenly had faith to take the children there, and I thought maybe we could live in this part of the world. So, and then from that, God really started speaking to me about taking the family from Paris to Guinea. So, difficult decision to make. To make a long story short, we had confirmation one after the other, from having a job offer to go to Conakry, having a house offer to go to Conakry, with a dream as well. In a dream, I was standing on top of the hill where the church was built, because the church was on top of the hill, one of the hill of Conakry. And I saw like an ant destroying houses all around the church because there was an earthquake. And I heard God saying, there's got something major is going to happen. There's going to be a lot of work to do to rebuild. And then God said as well, but you'll have to rebuild it according to the value of the church. So anyway, 2003, we went there. We managed to meet with John and Alex Pepe just before going in a Brighton conference, and we asked them with trembling and fear, John, Alex, what do we do in the first year? And they said, enjoy it. So that was our mission for the first year, was to enjoy our stay there, and all the time trying to build a team with the children. With Rebecca, at that time she was 13, Timothy was 11, Mika was 8, and Robin was 6, and little Lucy was 1. So we tried to work there, tried to live there. Very different. Everything is different. The noise at night, the heat, of course. Every child had the right to take one bag of toys. We didn't take a container or anything. We wanted to work with a church, so we wanted to be self-supporting as well. We didn't want money to go on us. There was so many problems, so many poverty problems there. So every child took one bag, and even with a little quantity of things they took, they still had much more than anybody else in the church. So it was very difficult to be confronted to that difference of material level. For the first months, we just had enough money to buy mattresses because I had just a local contract in the French school. I'm a sport teacher. I stopped being full-time at that time. We didn't want to be full-time. We just wanted to work like everybody else. And so it was quite tough. We lost a lot of weight the first months because we didn't have too much money to buy food. But we still had much more than everybody else. Anyway, after 1 year, we asked the children if they wanted to carry on, and they said yes on some condition. And one of the conditions was to have a bit more money to buy milk and cereal. Elaine found a job. We did the second year. We did the third year. We could feel there was something not quite right in the church, and it was. The earthquake was not for the country. The earthquake was for the church. There was a real problem in the leadership, and the leadership we committed ourselves to, because we went away, and we still all the time, all our vision was to work for Africans, not to build something for ourselves, not to rebuild colonization. Guinea was a French colony in the past. We discovered that different things, and we had to rebuild everything from scratch. In the first 3 years, we had time to develop some good way of living and real friendship with what was going to be the framework of the team, who is still leading the work there and still doing a fantastic job, with James Baker, and was not married at the time, and then Fengai Esmande, Prince Momosila, and then for the school we had someone else called Mosh Davis, but unfortunately we stopped working together in 2011. And then Maina, Dixon, and Anticia Siabonia, they were the one looking after the school. So in 2006 we restarted a school called Jubilee International. We had to, because of the crisis, the relationship between everybody were in terrible mess. But during the 3 years, we had time to build friendship with that short team, with that small team. We were really real friends together. We learned our strengths and weaknesses. We learned how to operate as a team, and we carry on learning that. Something else we learned as well is that since we didn't want to, we didn't want to bring, like Nigel said in one of these tapes, we're not trying to bring European values, Occidental, Westerners' values into Guinea. We're just trying to understand what are the values, the way of living, the strengths and the weaknesses we can see. Like Dave Devnish teach a lot in all his teaching. when you're coming from another culture, like if you're English, you come to France, you can see some difficulties or some things which are not quite right in our culture according to the gospel. We can do the same actually as French people when we go to England, but that's another subject. Anyway, and so we worked things together, and we were trying to serve God. Another teaching we received from Dave Devenish, trying to serve God with our gifting in another culture. But before you can do that, you need to take time to understand the other culture. You need to take time to understand how people see things, how people work things out. Otherwise, you just come and bring your own thinking and without even realizing it. I know a story of a church in Paris where the leader was a Swiss guy, really nice person. And you know, when you start a church, don't have too much things to do because there's not many people yet. So he decided to redecorate the church building, and he redecorated the church building with some kind of wood at the bottom and everything. I don't know how you say that in English. We call that lambris in French. And so when you come into the church building, it was very nice, very pretty, but it looks foreign. Actually, I went to his house and then I went to Switzerland. Every house in Switzerland is decorated like that. And that man, without realizing, because he really wanted to integrate it to the French culture, just made a church building looking Swiss. And we were so scared, and we probably did whatever all we tried to do. We were so scared to actually do something French or English, because Ilan is English, rather than building a church who's going to be Guinean. Actually, when we left, after we left, the few weeks after we left, straight away, what they decided to do is put big curtains, because actually they like having big curtains in the room. We don't like it. They like it. They put a curtain. Fair enough. It's very important. During that time, we learned how to build a system of working, which was anything we do, always take someone with us, always ask if we did the right thing, always try to understand how things were working out, listen before doing things, look before acting, and we had 3 years to do that. Of course, when I was asked to preach the gospel every 2 weeks, to preach in the church every 2 weeks. So when you preach, you preach. The gospel is the gospel. The Bible is the Bible. But even in preaching, you do a different way. It's different to preach when everybody moves in the room, because in the culture there, silence is not a value. And there's half of the population is under 15. So you've got children moving all the time, and you have to learn. You have to learn that when you speak in French, the French Guinean speaks is not French is not the first language, second language. So all that we had to learn. All that we had to learn how to laugh and with our friends and with our brothers and sisters. They had to learn how to live with us with our strange way of doing things, like wanting to eat together around the table. When in a culture there we don't that, but you know there's good things about doing that. There's other good things doing something else. And basically, with our children, we enjoyed it. We really learned how to enjoy living in Guinea, even if the life there is quite difficult. We rented a house, but our house as well was organized not an African way. We're not Africans, so we can't be having an African house. But in West Africa, when you want to welcome people, you have a place outside where people can come at any time, and you go and meet them there. And people can come in and out of the house whenever they want. We had a lot of people coming in and out, but not like it would be in an African home. But one day we had a missionary coming, a friend, a very good friend of us, and we were sitting together. It was really funny because we could hardly talk because there was people coming in and out all the time. Not like in an African house, I'm telling you, but certainly not like in a Westerner house. And he looked at that, and after a while he said to me, he said, you know, I've been missionary for a long time. I had a lot of teaching, and they always told us that it's not good to have people coming in and out of your house because of safety reason. And you're doing something completely different here. And I said, yeah, we just live normally. That's how we do. And he said, I think you're right. We need to reconsider the way we did things. So we tried to build our own thing. We tried to stay humble, to try to understand the culture without losing our identity, especially with 5 children. So every summer we were going back to France and England, because Simon said you need to do that. He lived the same thing. He went to South Africa with his children. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for your children to find their own identity, and you absolutely have to go back every summer. So we went back every summer, which means that when we were not there, the church had to live without us, and it made it much easier for them when we left. We decided to serve God with our own gifting in that different culture, and we were never on our own to do anything, which is a biblical principle. In the Bible, I really see Jesus, even to get a donkey, sent 2 people together. So we build these principles. And another thing, we were there, and I think it was important when you are working with in serving the poor. We were witness of the difficulty they were living. Sometimes the misery, the suffering is such, you have nothing to do and nothing to say. You can't do anything. It's too much, and it's above your abilities. Even if we help a lot of people, we help a lot of people in the street. We lived in the same street for 14 years. So everybody in the street was coming. When we were coming back from work, was mostly Elaine looking after that. We had a queue of people waiting to try to receive some help. We had a doctor in our village where we live now in France. Sometimes we're calling her, and she was giving us some medicine and telling us what to do. Because at the beginning, the medical system was not, and it's still not very well established, but it was even worse than it was at the end. But even us, with our little means, we can't replace a complete social security system. So we saw people dying, we saw situation absolutely terrible, and sometimes the only thing you can do is cry. The only thing you can just be a witness of the suffering. But it's important. It's important to do that. It's important to be with them, and it's important. We sorted out lots of situations as well. I'll talk about that later. But we just I think that's what we tried to do. So when the crisis started, we had this I would say this foundation laid on our lives, together with our friends, with our brother, because we're not just colleagues, they are friends. One of the things which is amazing in West Africa, in the culture there, is the quality and the maturity in relationship. You make friends there, like it's just incredible, and because people live so much, are confronted with so much death and everything, it brings actually a lot of maturity, even in the children. So we were together. So in 2006, when the crisis blew up, and I'm not going to go into detail, but it was quite rough, it was very difficult. We had to restart everything. So we started a school. We had a bit less than 200 children in a little house. So you imagine a front room. You divide on one wall you have a blackboard, on the other wall you have a blackboard, you have 15 or 20 children on each side, and 2 classrooms with 2 teachers teaching at the same time. And some of the classrooms were outside in the yard, under a tree if they were fortunate. Sometimes there was no tree. But one day there was a graffiti on the school. A graffiti, can you believe that? And you know what the graffiti was saying? Graffiti was saying, I love the school. I love my school. So that's kind of atmosphere we had. And but like I said, because of the crisis, it was a lot of tension until 2007. On top of that, other tension came in the country with a big demonstration of people going peacefully claiming for democracy, and the government shooting them, and with guns and cannon and everything. We could actually heard the noise from where we were, and big helicopters going around the city, everybody running everywhere. officially 250 people were killed. 3 weeks after, we were in a plane, and Nigel was working it out with us. The French embassy was working it out as well. At that time, my job had changed. I was employed by the French government, and we decided that we had to put into safety all the refugees from Sierra Leone, because the church has been started by a refugee from Sierra Leone in 1996 during the war in Sierra Leone, and because there were noise about Guineans saying that all that was due to people from other countries. So it was a lot of work. I remember on the way I was in the bus with the embassy with all my French colleagues, and I was still on the phone trying to arrange the last car to take the last teachers going to Freetown into safety, because 2 days after the country got locked up, and it was quite very, very difficult, a bit like where you live in films. And when we came back, we were very surprised, because the atmosphere in the school and in the church was completely different. People told us, at that time the school was, like I said, 200 children. The church, we were about 20 of us, 20, with the starting church, the original team. I encourage you to listen to the teaching of Dave Devenish about how to church planting. And our church planting team was made with our family. Our children were part of the church planting team. So even little Lucy at that time, she had to put the chairs and wipe up everything, and etc. And everybody was part of the team. And we told them that since you are in our family, and since God called us to do that, until you are with us, you have to work with us. After, you do what you want, but when you are in our family, we work together for the kingdom of God. So anyway, they were willingly working with us, and we all went to. So when we came back, atmosphere was completely different, and you know why? The reason why is because New Frontiers has helped all the Sierra Leone's and Liberian guys to be put into safety out of Guinea. They said you didn't just look after the white guys. You looked after everybody. So now we can see that actually you are treating people. We are really, really brothers and sisters. You are really treating us the same way, and that completely turned the atmosphere. From that point, a group of people who had lived a crisis and suffering became more like a community. We were already like a community in our little team, but that went over the boundary of the team. And I can say, I remember James Baker, who is leading the work now in a wonderful way, really insisting on the fight until that summer 2007, saying we're not actually having a church yet. It's still very fragile because of all the tension. After that, the tension starting getting better, and we managed to start building really a church. So, of course, the school has been working with the poor, giving access to children who had no access to education, especially girls. We were doing that right from the beginning. We were all having the church starting growing. We got about 50, 60 people, and we got stronger. Things were getting settled. A second crisis happened. The president dies in December 2008. There's a coup, and in September 2009, opposition making demonstration, go into the stadium, they lock up the stadium, shoot people, rape the women. The French government decide to expel us out of the country. Since I'm working for the French government, I have to go. I didn't want to go because I didn't want to go. Anyway, we had to go. At the same time, in our family, we were living. The real difficult challenge we had to live with is that our oldest children, were leaving to go back to France for their studies, and that was very painful because we had to let them go, and we couldn't be with them when they were 18. And if all of us, that has been the most difficult thing for our family. So anyway, we lived there for 10 months in France. The church carried on without us, learned how to live without us, didn't grow, didn't get smaller. When we come back, you know, Guinea is a strong Muslim country, and I preached the gospel, preached the resurrection of Jesus and the death of Jesus and his resurrection, and people started becoming Christian. One after the other, we started seeing a lot of people becoming Christians through the testimony of the school. And another thing we saw as well is that one of the main reasons why people were becoming Christian is because we were helping the poor. And I just want to tell you one incredible afternoon, 2010 or 11, I went out to the street to buy some bread with Prince, because I never go on my own. And Prince, I met two children of the school, and I realized that in the morning they were going to school, and in the afternoon they were selling on their head. They had a tray with a biscuit on their head, and they were selling biscuits to the market to be able to provide for the family. And these two children were brilliant students, but they couldn't study or anything because they had to sell biscuit. They were not even 10. So I was very shocked by that. And then we received a phone call, and there was a lady, not a Christian. That lady, the mother of these children, were not in a church either. And that lady was in prison because she had an argument with some neighbors. So Prince is a specialist of taking people out of the prison. So on the Saturday, he went to get these people out of prison. On the same evening, I called Maina. We tried to get these children under sponsorship with New Frontiers and Nigerian program. And then Elaine, in the same day, went to see another lady who just gave birth to a little daughter. And this lady was living in a container under the sun. Imagine, it's 25 degrees at night when you have windows. They had locked themselves up into a container it was more than 40 in that container. There was just space for the bed and suitcases. Mummy with 4 children, with a baby, one of them being a baby of a few weeks. Elaine went there and she cried. And what we did there as a church, we decided to help these 3 cases by paying for raising support, paying with our own money as well for the lady with the 4 children. That was very difficult. That lady had a lot of issues to be sorted out. You know, when you help the poor, it's not just money. You have to help psychologically as well. You have to help socially. You have to help spiritually. So she gave her life to Jesus. She got baptized. And the elders of the church, because we were Westerners, we were looking at the situation, but they really spent hours and hours helping this lady. And now her daughters having their A levels, and everybody is absolutely restored materially, spiritually, and psychologically. And then the other mother started coming to church as well, and the children. But that mother didn't have. She could manage herself quite well, so we didn't need to look after her socially or materially so much. And then the other lady, she was from a strong Muslim background. Prince took her out of prison. So the following Sunday, she came to church to say thank you to the church and thank you to God for helping her. And what happened is that because we were a church praising God and preaching the gospel, people were coming into the church. She could feel the presence of God. So she felt the presence of God, gave her life to Jesus. So when we had people making a step of faith, we were always taking them to baptism course, leading them to baptism, and then baptize them there. And when they get baptized, they were inviting friends over to see the baptism. So the friends came over, and she gave testimony. She said, the church helped me, the church did that to me, etc. and then they go into the room, it was not a room actually, we were meeting under some zinc, because we never had the money to have any building, and then these people came into the meeting, and in an amazing way they felt the presence of God. They really felt the presence of God. So we preach the gospel, simple but straight gospel. They feel the presence of God. We baptize people. When people come out of the water, we lay hands on them. They fall in the Spirit, pray in tongues. And so after baptism, we had another 5, 10, 15 candidates for more baptism, because people were touched by the presence of God. And the church was growing like that, so much that we went from 50 to 250 in a few years. And starting reaching out and starting seeing a lot of people becoming Christian. To be honest, it got very difficult as well, because we had so much work and so much difficulty to face that when the church was growing, actually the church was getting poorer, and we were all the time trying to go out and looking for more means, more building, etc. I forgot to say that in 2008, John Pipi, who was our apostolic leader at that time, told us to start a church, to do straight away. We were about 15, 20 of us, so so we obeyed, and we took a team to a village called Kukude, and that village is even poorer than Conakry. No toilets in the village, so people were going on the beach. In that village in 2010, 100 children died of measles. I mean, incredible misery, even worse than Conakry. Anyway, when they were there, they find what the Bible called a child of peace in Luke 10, a man called John Thomas. We call him FM because he talks all the time, so he's FM Kukude, I'm FM Conakry. And that man started a church and a school. And when we left 2 years ago, the church was 100 people and the school was 135 children. We managed to build a building there, and having a complete change on the community there as well. And what I'm trying to say there is that let's just listen to God. Let's just be who we are. Let's not try to be Terry Virgo or John Pipi or whoever. Let's just try to be ourselves. Let's just enjoy all the gifting, natural gifting, spiritual gifting God is giving us. Listen to God and make sure of the calling, and be ready to serve Him in your culture or in another culture, and enjoy it. And when we do that in a team context, surrounded by friends, surrounded by people we love and people who love you, that's called the church. We're going to live incredible stories, and that's our testimony. And he carries on. Since we've left, James is leading the team now, and they started a church in Dubreka. I've heard about this, talking about starting another one in another part of the country, and the school has moved to another part of to a bigger building, and is more independent than ever, and the God is honoring his gospel. And like Paul said in the New Testament, when you preach the gospel somewhere, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to carry on, because the gospel is a message of life, and it's a message that's going to turn over everything. So that's our testimony. God bless you. Amen.